Hello. So you can visualize what John and Sally have presented a little bit so far. You obviously have one journal that's trying to transfer manuscripts to another journal. That's one of our primary use cases. And then Sally's described that we're going to use a very simple zip package to zip up the information. And she described already that there'll be an article XML file that'll have some of the manuscript metadata. And as we were coming across these use cases, we realized that not only do we want to transfer some of the article data, but that we work with some journals that are leaning towards nowadays transferring some of the reviewer information, some of the scoring from the reviewer scorecards, the ratings, is it novel, is it unique science, and so on. And we didn't feel necessarily that that information should go into the article XML file. As a matter of fact, there really weren't appropriate tags for that type of information. So the team worked as a whole to develop approximately 12 to 13 new tags, a DTD and a schema to help model peer review data, both questions and answers, free-form comments. The DTD will also support external documents like marked up or redlined manuscripts and so on that the reviewers might want to share with the authors. And by providing this sort of XML type file, we're going to call it reviews.xml for lack of a better name, the one journal can share this information with another journal so you don't burn through reviewers and some of the review information can be shared. As far when we were going through this, we decided we have to address certain issues like privacy. So maybe the reviewers' names, email, contact information shouldn't be shared from journal to journal. But we decided as a group that privacy policy should be driven by the sending journal. So the journal that originates the information, its privacy policy can dictate, should we reveal who the reviewers' names are on the content information, or we can still share the information, but those names and personal information should be redacted out. But it would still be useful to receiving editor-in-chief to know that these reviews occurred and what the people were saying. Now you have the zip file, if you can visualize, was an article XML file, and possibly you'll have a peer review or a review XML file. Like Sally mentioned before, we've actually done real-world work with modeling out a whole DTD and schema. It's not perfect, it's a work in process, but we wanted to start with some concrete information. And there's actual real-world XML files that try to model out to make sure that we really could grab different flexible reviewer questions because different journals are going to ask different scoring schemes and so on. Once we figured out that we needed how we had to transfer the manuscript information, the peer information, we realized that we also, from the receiving system and the sending system, they need to communicate who they are, maybe some security information, and how to consume and process this data. Again, we didn't believe this should go into the article XML file. It wasn't really modeled correctly with the JATS tags, so we came up with a few extra tags and created what's called the transfer XML file. At a very minimal, it will just say what the source system is. Like it's coming from this system, so the receiving system knows how to ingest it and who it's coming from. Over time, we might put extra security hashes into it and stuff so you can make sure you're receiving the information from a validated system and so on. Again, that we worked out, modeled out real-world XML, and there'll be a website with some of these examples on it. Now that we have a package with article information, review information, some transfer instructions, we realize, well, if the receiving system has a problem with it and they need to call someone on the phone or have one system talk to the other system, we need to uniquely identify the manuscript in this package. Traditionally, you do that with something like DOIs, but we realized that DOIs were actually very society or journal publisher centric, but this transfer could be, could be across multiple different systems, and you didn't want to have the identifier unique to one publisher, journal, or society. So we decided to use a UUID, which is a very standard uniform numbering scheme that can be generated simultaneously and guarantee uniqueness. And if a system had to talk to another system or person to another person, that ID would be unique. It's not meant to replace any of the existing IDs. It was just really so that if you had two systems or people talking to each other, they knew they were talking about the same thing. Now that we have the article file, the peer review file, the transmittal information uniquely identified in a zip package, we need to figure out how to transfer it from system to system. And a lot of the information you're seeing today is not rocket science. We've spent many years, transfer information from system to system. So as John said, we try to use some of the minimal best practices that we already see before. So we decided to use FTP, standard file protocol, to encrypt everything. We'll go towards secure FTP by the end of this year. And we figured pretty much all the vendors know how to use that in a reliable fashion. There may be some use cases where we want more interactive transfer information. So in the future, we look towards developing a REST or sorted API that's more real time. But we'll probably address that as those use cases become more apparent. And here is Chris for the next part of our session.